for me, I learned a principle of sacrifice. That when you are placed in a family, or God places a family under your care, you have to do all you can to make their lives better. In each of us, God has placed special talent. The talent you have is not for you. God gives you a talent to bless others. So there are also the concept of a flag bearer. God sometimes in a home will raise a flag bearer. The flag bearer could be the man. The flag bearer could be the woman. Should God be calling one of you to be a flag bearer, please do not hinder. Just support. Remember, I've said the talent is not for you, but if you benefit from it, well and good. But the bigger benefit is that the talent is blessing other people. We took a decision and she left. She applied for a career break. We got to Mexico. And again, we took a decision. We said, but Catherine, you can't just sit here. I was waiting on a husband. So I paid for her to go and study, do the master's in the United States. So she went to a university called the Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. She did a master's of law. I think people should really understand that the family or marriage is really the highest form of partnership. One of the pains of growing up is to discover that there are some things that we learn over time. And you look back and say, I wish I knew everything I know now when I was 25, you know? But you don't. That's not how life is designed. For men who are in supportive roles, it's actually very enjoyable, especially if you have something to offer. And this is what I would say. Try to find something to offer your friend whose doors are opening when yours appear to be closed. Find something to offer. You can't fail to find something. It could be. Common sense is actually useful to get somebody who is detached from your daily life to just say, but did you consider this? And you may be surprised. But if the person is coming home and, home is dull, they don't think any value, they actually get bored, But if you take interest, a person finds value in what you are saying, you are not asking questions and to fail them or to make them, to humiliate them. The world is groaning for people with integrity. There is a scarcity of people to trust. And it's a big, big problem. So many young people are saying the end justifies the means. But we are saying, no, please. Let the means also matter. Don't just say that I got the result. We should all be interested to know how was the result actually achieved. So I'm just saying that it's important for people to learn to postpone, because there are things I can't tell you that you'll always win in all these battles of life. No, you may not win in all of them. But one of the principles I've learned is, please postpone. If you think your body is craving something, it's for now. If you just say, maybe let me wait until tomorrow. By tomorrow, you'll probably
you'll be good.
You'll probably
And you're saved for a day.
Yes, you're saved for a day.
Thank you very much for joining us on today's episode. My name is Renette, your host, and I'm very privileged, very humble to host a gentleman that I've watched and I've known for some time. And I am very happy to bring George Bamugemereire here. You're very welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Renette.
Yeah, and
it's also a pleasure to be here with you this evening.
Thank you very much. Today, I want us to talk about an issue of sacrifice and how people are shaped by the decisions they make. One of the things that increasingly is an issue for me is that every time you see somebody who has risen above ordinary, there's a level of sacrifice they've done to where they are. But many times that sacrifice is never said. We see people achieve this, achieve that, and they don't take us through the process. But on this show, we are very intentional about process and understanding what are some of the things that make people who they are. What are some of the decisions they've had to take deliberately to be who they are right now. And that's our discussion for today. Yeah, so briefly before we go into the discussion, sir, for those who are meeting you for the first time or those who do not know you, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is George Bamugemereire. I was born in a family of 10 children. My parents were both primary school teachers. But something persuaded them to really focus on two things for their children. The first was the fear of God. So every single day from the time I can remember, our father insisted on there must be prayer in the house. Not praying just for food, but prayer at the end of the day. And then singing of hymns. So I would sing a hymn. There was a hymn he liked, "Oh God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come." We sang that hymn for, he died when I was just 30. I mean, no, when I was 24. But every day of my life, that was a hymn that was sung in the house. The second thing that he was really committed to was the education of children. So although they were primary school teachers, in 1969, there had been a program, I think in the 60s, where the UK government offered scholarships to primary school teachers of Uganda to go to the UK for 2 years. And they would be trained in various subjects. So in his case, he was trained in, they call it infant methods, teaching children. So he spent 2 years in the UK. And when he returned, he brought these slides, because there's a cameras, he had slides, and there used to be slide projectors. So he showed us all these pictures, I'm in Manchester, I'm in Birmingham, I'm in Glasgow, Edinburgh, London. So he came back a changed man. And unfortunately, most of those teachers, they were not given a qualification for the 2 years they spent in the UK. But they came with all these images. So for him, I remember, his view of success was, has a person boarded a plane paid for by somebody to go and achieve something. So he came back, because as I've mentioned, they were not given any qualification. They just got a certificate of attendance for spending 2 years in Britain attending all sorts of classes. So when he came back, something had changed. So we was a teacher somewhere in Busoga in Kaliro. But a switch seems to have been flipped in his head. And he decided that he would take all his children to the best schools in Uganda. So for me, he took me to Mwiri Primary School for P1, He took my elder brother, older boys, I think, those are all myself and the older one, even the one younger than me. He took us to boarding school. Me, I was able to start from primary school. The elders started from P5, P6, and so on. The girls were taken to the best school at that time was Berkeley High School in Iganga. And then, remember, this was now the beginning of Idi Amin days. So over the years, they fell on very hard times. The teacher's salary, which could sustain teachers at that time, lost value. There was inflation, there was scarcity. Then school fees, charges just shot through the roof. But for some reason, our father kept us in those schools. Took me to Mwiri Primary School. After Mwiri Primary School, he took me to King's College, Budo. Took my brother to Namiriango, took another one to Ntare, took the girl to Gayaza, But these are two primary school teachers. I know you started on the theme of sacrifice. So for me, when you talk about sacrifice, it was handed down to me by my father. So he, as the times became tougher, like every time I was going to Budo, he would send a letter. Please allow my son to study. When my salary is paid, I will pay. Then he sends the same letter to Gayaza, sends the same school, the same letter to Namiliango,
Ntare.
sends to Ntare. Exactly the same letter, say, but banking on the salary of 2 primary school teachers. So I keep saying that I'm hoping that we don't have debt in those schools, but somehow we don't have debt. Nobody has complained. But one day, I think on a good day, we shall go around to the school and say, please, can you dig up the records 40 years back, hoping my dad was able to fulfill all the letters. But I think to the best of my knowledge, he paid up the debt. So we were raised in that context. Of course, there was a struggle in the home. He had 10 children. We tried a lot of businesses, but they never really worked. So ultimately, we were raised on 2 primary school teachers' salaries, struggling, scarcity of food. Because as time became tougher, he sold the bicycle, he sold the radio. By the time he died in 1989, he was now contemplating. He was saying, I think I need to de-roof. If somebody can find value in my iron sheets, which were very old and wasted. Because he had a younger brother who had been admitted to Namiliango. And there was, I think, a debt of 90,000 shillings. So the week he died, we had that conversation. Saying, I think when I get out of hospital, we may have to do away with the roof. So, for me, he was so consumed by this vision that one generation should do all it can, all in its power, to make the lives of the next generation better. And it's the sort of covenant we had with him. Saying, Dad, you are suffering. Going to school, you don't have new bed sheets. And when we had that practice that whoever's maybe reached O level, finished S4, passes on the mattress to the next one, the bed sheets. Then when the bed sheets ran out, then the mother say, when we go home, sleep rough. Maybe she gives, now we don't have a blanket. She throws you her busuti. You use that for your blanket. And it's terrible when a visitor comes. Then we have to find somewhere the visitor should stay. So this was actually quite a difficult life, but we actually didn't appreciate enough that our lives were so hard. But again, within this home, there was so much happiness. There was laughter. Every time we all came from all these schools and told the stories, there was happiness, there was laughter, there was joy. So it was a life of contradictions. And I can tell you that of these 10 children, today, I think as we speak, either 3 or 4 have PhDs in medicine and law and various disciplines. And we've now seen that, if we compare ourselves to our father, I think, at least on the academic side, he achieved, although he's dead, he really achieved his goal through the sacrifice. We felt terrible that he died at age 50. He was unable to see what his children would become. He was able to enjoy the fruit of the investment he's made in his children. But wherever he is, we feel happy that he invested that much in us. He sacrificed everything. We feel sad that this man did not really have a happy day, because just imagine the burden of school fees of 10 children in all these traditional schools in Uganda. It was difficult because he had to be in debt, sold off everything. He kept hoping that maybe things would get better for him one day, which didn't happen. But the principle here is that for me, I learned a principle of sacrifice. That when you are placed in a family, or God places a family under your care, you have to do all you can to make their lives better. So I studied, after leaving school, I went to studied law. I went to Law Development Center to got a diploma in legal practice. I was enrolled as an advocate of Uganda, worked for the Ministry of Justice in the office of the DPP as a state attorney. I was posted to Arua, where I worked for close to 5 years, worked in Mbale as a resident state attorney for 2 years. After which, I switched careers and joined Shell. So I worked in Shell, with Shell in the head of legal for 5 years here in Uganda. After which there was a program where they said I think there had been some concern that people from the less developed countries were not having enough opportunities to compete because all the jobs at Shell at that time would be advertised globally. So they said, this is one company, if we find somebody who can match the job specs and you can be employed. And that's how I managed to apply for one of the roles, and I was posted to Mexico, to Shell Mexico, Mexico City. So that was 2001. We lived in Mexico. I went with my wife Catherine and our 2 children. One was 4, another one was 7. We lived there 2 years. After those years, I got a role in London for Shell, for the team leader for the Global Share Purchase Plan, Shell Center in London. I did that job, I think, for 3.5 years, coming to 4 years. After that, I did a HR role, again for 4 years with Shell, another Shell company now as HR manager. Shell in London, it was called Shell Gas Direct, but working for a company called Shell Energy Europe. So I belonged to a team which was based in The Hague. So after that, Shell sold its business in Africa. It divested, and they had a policy that when they divest from a country, they recall all the citizens of that country who are abroad. So we all returned. Some came from The Hague, others from Dubai, ourselves from London. We returned. When I got back here, I found that, when you've been away from a company for a long time, because I'd been away for 10 years, and then you come back, you find a lot of the people who were reporting below you, have been promoted. Because one of the tragedies of working abroad is that it's rare to be promoted, even one level, because you are deemed, especially if you've been hired as an expert, you are deemed to be transferring expertise. So you don't promote an expert because you are deemed to be coming to offer a service that can't be found locally. So when you come back, you actually find that people who have stayed have made a lot of progress in their own context and environment. So you come in, you have all this knowledge and expertise in your head, but you really can't fit in the organization. So I just found that was the right time to leave Shell. After 2 years, I was appointed the Deputy Inspector General of Government of Uganda, a role I carried on for 4 years until because it's a 4-year contract, renewable once, which expired the second contract expired 2021. And then I set up a law firm consultancies. Last year or the other year, I joined the Makerere University Council, where I sit on quite a few committees and boards. So that's really a summary. Married to Catherine, we have 2 adult children, Timothy and Sheila.
Amazing.
Yes, that's it.
That's
summary.
Really is so packed. The way you've said it is so brief. I feel like there are many details that you.
Yeah, of course there are a lot of.
But very amazing to hear how your story has been packed in your career. Now, one of the things that we cannot go without speaking is Catherine, because I think at the point you are rising in all those careers, your wife was as well rising. How was that for you, given that you're both 2 individuals in very high-ranking positions, and yet you're raising a family? How were the transitions, and what were some of the changes you had to do as sacrifice for your family?
No, I think that was actually a challenge, but
we really didn't see it that way, because I gave you the background of my parents, the family that, for me, that was the model family. I had a lot of admiration from my father and my mother and their understanding of a family. 2 primary school teachers, raising 10 children. They are not complaining. They are not grumbling. They don't have much. There's scarcity. So for me, when we got married, I got married, I think, when Catherine was just finishing LDC. When she just finished LDC, actually a few weeks after she finished LDC, we got married. At that time, I was working in Arua as a resident state attorney. And remember, Arua at that time Arua is in West Nile. there was a war waged by a person called Konyi.
Yes.
So, and Konyi really ravaged the northern Uganda. So at that time, you couldn't drive to Arua. Would all stop at Karuma, at the bridge, and then the military would assemble and get you a convoy. So you'd get into a convoy of 20, 30. All the vehicles would assemble there between 10 and 3 p.m.
Yes.
So everybody's there, then we all drive in one long convoy. And there's a long stretch of 100 kilometers, I think, between Karuma and Pakwach. And that time it was all forest. And the Konyi was operating in the area. So there would be a few times, you're driving out, then they encounter Konyi rebels, and the soldiers fight and shoot. The rest of you take cover on the floor of the bus, then you continue. So at the time we get married, I invite Catherine to join me in Arua. And the DPP at that time, who was our boss, the Director of Public Prosecutions, we requested, he said, we've just got married. We are in our mid-20s. I was in mid-20s. There is no role. Arua was really difficult. It's a hard to go to place at that time. So the DPP got some paperwork signed and said, waived the requirement because, I think in the public service, spouses should not report into each other. But they did that waiver. If that's the only role, is to work with the DPP. So I was a resident state attorney and Catherine was my assistant. And when she came into the office, we were able to clear so much work. She's very fast in her work. So all the backlog we had, DPP, those criminal cases, murders and so on, were all cleared in a short time. But again, we realized that it's not sustainable. This has been a special dispensation to have spouses working together. So around that time, they advertised the role of magistrates, grade 1. So we agreed. We said,
but she actually started from assisting you.
Assisting you in the DPP's office. So we agreed that she applies to become a magistrate. So she became a magistrate, grade 1, and I was a state attorney. But even that was awkward because soon after she became a magistrate, the chief magistrate, who was her boss, died. He fell sick and died quite quickly. So now we're in this dilemma where Catherine now is in charge of the court. I am in charge of the prosecutions. And the nearest magistrate was in a town called Nebi. Another one was in Moyo, So those were the 4 lawyers in West Nile at that time. Then there were some 2 private lawyers. So we had that challenge. Eventually, so our son was born when Catherine had just become a magistrate. And we always cited a story how those days were a lot of seminars in this country. So she was invited for orientation at the Uganda Management Institute. They had recruited 24 magistrates and a seminar sponsored by by the Danish government. So we requested the chief registrar at that time, who is the current deputy chief justice. I said, now we are this young family. This girl is a new magistrate. Can we, but has a baby? What can we do? He said, no. So they wrote to the Danish government, can we allow a 25th participant and a maid and arrange the feeding and so on. So our son was able to, just a few weeks to participate. But that really marked the beginning of our divergent roles. So in many places, as I was transferred from Arua, she was also transferred from Arua. We went to Mbale, she became magistrate Mbale. When I joined Shell, she too managed to get a transfer from Mbale to come to the city court, and then became a chief magistrate of Buganda Road Court. So at that point, our careers became divergent. I joined the private sector. She remained in the government. But it didn't take long. Then, of course, we got the offer to work in Mexico City. Yeah. So now, this is really maybe the answer to your question. The sacrifices begin at that point. We have these 2 children. One is 4, another one is 7. And expatriation really doesn't benefit you, the adult. It benefits the children. The ones who get to a new country, learn a new language, and so on. Yes. You really want them to benefit. So we had to take that decision. What do we do? Can I carry these babies? If you are the expatriate and you carry children without a spouse, you will fail.
Yeah.
Because at that age and in those countries, you can't leave children alone in the house. Yeah. So what do you do when they come from school and so on? So Catherine, she'd really, Chief Magistrate at that time was a very popular role, There wasn't much news. There was no anti-corruption court. All these divisions you hear were not there. Yeah. So you'd see, the New Vision would be covering the Chief Magistrate every day. So and so
they don't have anyone else to cover.
Yeah, there wasn't news. There wasn't much news, by the way, in Uganda. So all the news was being generated in the courts. So you open a page, so and so Chief Magistrate done, Chief Magistrate done this, Chief Magistrate. But she left. So we took a decision, and she left. She applied for a career break. We got to Mexico, and again we took a decision. We said, "But Catherine, you can't just sit here, waiting on your husband." So I paid for her to go and study, do the masters in the United States. So she went to a university called Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. She did a masters of law. But again, there was that challenge. Once she went to study there,
you went to work.
I went to work, and we had these 2 children. So after some confusion, fortunately for Shell, they would offer free education not free education. They would pay for the education for the children in the best school wherever you are. So but there's that problem when they are brought back, because the buses pick them in the morning, they take them in the evening, they bring them back. So we had that issue. It became clear that I couldn't really cope with the children. So the children went and joined Catherine, got a house in Dallas, looked after children, got them into school in Dallas, Texas. After that, when we went to the UK, again, she got a job to teach at a university, but I was working at Shell in London. But again, she couldn't take on a very busy job because there's an issue of dropping kids and picking them and so on. So she really became a mother. So in total, you could see that there were some 10 years of her career where she put her career on pause in order to raise a young family. And then she became a judge in 2010, and it coincided with the time Shell was selling. So this role, the role reversal, is now she becomes the judge. That she's the one people know. But actually, she had some years where she was raising children. So she became a judge. She's done all those commissions of inquiry and the things that have made people get to know her a bit more. So if you're asking the question, how have we dealt with the sacrifice of 2 careers? For me, my real principle and philosophy is that families should do all they can to bring the best out of themselves. Because in each of us, God has placed special talent. And as Miles Monroe used to teach, the talent you have is not for you. God gives you a talent to bless others. Just like you see a nice mango, those big, nice mangoes hanging on a tree. And you look at the mango and say, my goodness, it's so wonderful. But that tree doesn't really benefit from the mango. That mango is only of use if the human beings actually eat them and maybe throw the seeds and then they multiply. So for us, that's really our philosophy. That the talents that we have are not for us. The talent that each one of us is for the public or whatever the reason God has given it to you. It is to bless others. However, we are also stewards. So families are stewards for the talent in their families. You, the man, the talent in you, the family should be helping you bring out the best so that you bless more people. You, the man, should also be helping your wife to bring out the best of her so that she can bless the people. You also have that responsibility when you have children to be helping them, nurture them in a way, equip them with the best behaviors, with the best skills, so that they also bless at their time, their generation. So for me, that's the philosophy. I then recognize that the additional layer to this is that I like listening to some of the politics of the country. Soon we shall have an election. But there are these politicians with so many ideas and say, we are all supporters of one party and in the same constituency. Then say, how can we get the best? So there are also the concept of a flag bearer. God sometimes. in a home will raise a flag bearer. The flag bearer could be the man. The flag bearer could be the woman. Then it also happens in seasons. So should God be calling one of you to be a flag bearer, please do not hinder. Just support. Remember, I've said the talent is not for you, but if you benefit from it, well and good. But the bigger benefit is that the talent is blessing other people. So that's a sort of a philosophy that guides us. So it doesn't really concern me or worry me that, but you, George, you are not known. As I do that joke you made that where somebody, when I see being a Gigi and somebody says, oh, I'm going to Ramgovie, It's really, for me, I don't see it that way.
Yes.
When certain doors close, it's always an opportunity for other doors to open.
I want you to speak to men who are serving supportive roles, and how can they truly find fulfillment in them?
Yeah, I think people should really understand that the family or marriage is really the highest form of partnership.
Yes,
families are really the highest form of partnership. And we are saying that because I've already made two serious points. One, everybody in a family unit should do all they can to bring out the best of each member of the family so that they can bless the nation and bless their families and bless them. The second we said is that life has its seasons. So there will be seasons where one person, the opportunities, the doors that are opening are for one, not all of you. So it's your responsibility to throw all your support and weight behind the person whose doors have opened. Using all your talent, using your skill, and understanding that this person is not alone. The person is, you actually actively participate in supporting the people. Because, when we see people on television and the leaders, there are some who appear very strong and confident. But actually, they are human beings. And
true.
It really helps when the person is not acting alone. But the person is acting knowing that I have the support. So it's important to actually get into the detail. What does this person do? What contribution can I make? Because a lot of us, you grow older, then decision-making becomes actually more compelling. You are required to make important decisions. But these decisions should be sound. They should not shame you. If somebody has made the decision, as much as possible, let the decision be accurate, helpful, and a decision which actually attracts support from the people affected, saying, yes, this is the right decision. It may not favor me now, but the decision is the right one. So, for men who are in supportive roles, it's actually very enjoyable, especially if you have something to offer. And this is what I would say. Try to find something to offer your friend whose doors are opening when yours appear to be closed. Find something to offer. You can't fail to find something. It could be knowledge. It could be company. It could be peace. But it really helps where you actually are able to help the person be a better person where they are working. So the concept of partnership is so important.
It's good to hear how family is that highest level of partnership ordained by God.
Yes.
There are partnerships we go in for money, for
you go for partnership and you get disappointed. In business, you go in with the best intentions, then everybody's undercutting the other. Yes. But family, in an ideal family, your stakes of each one affect the other. I didn't know she'd one day become a judge. I didn't know she'd one day get to sit on the Supreme Court. No. But I just said yes. In terms career-wise, her father had been a magistrate. Oh. So it was sort of easy to say, this may be something that is already in your blood. Sometimes there are things that you find easier because somebody else has done it in the family. So he said, why don't you go to the judiciary? So that was one. Number two, when we get to Mexico, where somebody has come and said, but you've just left a very big job, a budding career. In some expatriate roles, you are paid a fairly good salary. But to say, let me put aside a big portion of the salary I'm being paid and pay for my wife to go and improve herself in the best university in the area, because we're also looking for a place that is not too far from Mexico. It's, I think, a 2.5 hour flight between Mexico City and Dallas, Texas in USA. So we are looking at location, looking at the age of the children. Then you say, I think, go and study. And then you avail the resources, we actually flew there, got the admission letter, became a guarantor, because there's that thing called, is it I-20 in America, the kind of visa they give for students, somebody guaranteeing that we shall pay the school fees and maintenance. We went and looked for a house, got a house, we bought a little cheap car, said, you need mobility to drive, because in America there are places where if you don't have a car, you can't move. So everybody must own a car. And I think at that time in Dallas, there were even no walkways. There's nowhere to walk. So you must drive or find a bus or something. But I think the way they've designed that country, some cities, you actually must have your own drive. So when the person gets there, you must get them a car. Otherwise, they'll be completely stranded. So we did that, bought a car, paid all the school fees. I think at that time it used to be what? It was about $50,000. Just got all of it, And I said, yeah, this is money. A selfish man will just say, I don't know how long my contract will last. I think let's just put away the money. I said, no. Please go and study, become a better person. And also I'm saying that you're now helping. Yeah? Yes. Because the person may even be reluctant. Say, why are you spending all? I said, no, go and study. Become a better person to equip you to become a bigger blessing to the community. Then obviously when she becomes a judge, yes, again, she becomes a judge at a time when my job is actually ending. To just say, please go and do your best in the judiciary. We all both happen to be lawyers. So for us, there's that benefit that we are in the same profession. So if somebody comes and says, I was in this place, this case, I will understand the legal terminology. What was it? What did the plaintiff say? What did the defendant say? What did the prosecutor say? What did the accused say? And the person is able to narrate what they are grappling without you taking over their job. But in terms of telling a story, she is telling something and you say, oh, yeah, what was the charge?
That emotional support.
Support, yes. It's very, very important. So I think then when people are going to, some of these promotional interviews, I'm an HR person. Fortunately, along my career at Shell, again, I got switched to HR, learned a lot of things. How do people get promoted? What kind of question? How do you answer questions? Because these are things that many people do not know. They may have opportunities, they may have contacts, and an opportunity is the only door into a promotion or into an organization is an interview. But how do you actually answer questions in an interview? How do you prepare for interviews? A lot of people just come and say the things that are in their head and so on. But recruitment and resourcing is actually a science. People hire you because of the value you are going to bring. They'll normally hire you because they have a problem or there is an issue they want to solve. And they are trying to find a match between the problem and the resource that will solve it. And those are all things that many people know. But these are opportunities for people. You can actually do a role play and say, but what are they going to do? What are you being interviewed on? Supposing I am the independent person who doesn't know you. You say, tell me about yourself. What should I expect to hear? And so on. So these are all, there are so many opportunities. Yes, there are so many opportunities in the family to actually support each other.
I really hear you. You do an interview for your spouse before they go for an interview.
That is the very least you can offer. Because there are also things where you will not go. I may love you very much as a spouse, but you can't carry me to your interview and say,
stand in for me.
Stand in for me or sit next to me. No. The most you can do, and the truth is what I discovered in Europe, is that a lot of the big people we hear about are actually coached, It's like in those organizations when they are trying to promote people. They identify people who they think have the capacity to go high, and then they start coaching them. This is what you need to do. This is the behavior we expect of you. This is what you should look like. This is how to become a CEO. If you are to be a CEO, how do CEOs work? How do they behave? And so on. So those things, they don't just happen. Many organizations have programs that shape their talent. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I mean, your story shows some level of balance, because at one point you're actually holding this family when nobody knew your wife.
Yes, exactly.
Nobody knew what she would become, but you pushed her to
Yes.
even reach that kind of level where now everybody celebrates her. And looking at that perspective, I am challenged. Even us who are younger couples, you want to learn from some of the lessons that you've had to do. And one of the things that for me has stood out is the idea of supporting in the way that you can. If God has raised one person, an opportunity has opened.
Don't be jealous. Don't be angry. Don't feel, no, why is it me who has all my doors closed? No. Actually, celebrate it. Support. Throw your full weight around. And you who is being supported, don't get there and be what many men fear. He says, oh, you support a woman. She's like, whatever, you climb a ladder. When she gets there and she no longer does you, she'll kick out the ladder. No. Both of you have to be aligned to the fact that this is serious business, It is serious business. It's a strong partnership. You have a role to bless others, to bless the world. And what you're doing is you're equipping everyone in the best way possible. To be the best they can be out in society.
Yeah, and also the other thing I pick from your submission is support can be many ways.
Yes.
Sometimes people, even in marriage, sometimes people don't know exactly what to do to support. But from your submission, I hear the word, you take interest.
Yes.
You get interested in what
Yes.
somebody's doing.
Yeah.
If somebody's going for an interview, there's that interest you take to say,
What's going to happen in that room? Yes, exactly.
Can I hear how you're going to introduce yourself?
Yes, how are you going to respond? Yes.
I assume I'm the interviewer.
Interviewer, and I don't know you.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, yeah.
That's interest. If you hear somebody has gotten a promotion, how can you be interested? What is
Take interest, because if somebody will be doing, you may be an engineer, and you're a lawyer, you may be a teacher, or you may be, just take interest. Because common sense is actually useful to get somebody who is detached from your daily life to just say, but did you consider this? And you may be surprised.
Yes. Yeah.
But if the person is coming home and, home is dull, they don't think any value, they actually get bored, But if you take interest, the person finds value in what you are saying, you are not asking questions and to fail them or to make them, to humiliate them, but you demonstrate that I actually support what you're doing. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't make me secure. It's really very nice.
Very, I hear you. And going back to our discussion, when I look at your life and the experiences you have, there is tangible evidence that you've had to live a life of sacrifice.
Yes.
Forego some things for the joy that is set ahead of you. Now, in the current age, and many young people, sometimes when they see people like you, how you've risen, all the positions you've gone through, the things you've achieved over the years, there's a bit of desiring that without understanding process. What would you tell a young man who looks at you as a role model?
I think the first of all is to admit that we are all human. One of the pains of growing up is to discover that there are some things that we learn over time. And you look back and say, I wish I knew everything I know now when I was 25,
Yeah.
But you don't. That's not how life is designed. Although I must say that this generation is actually quite fortunate. That there is the overload of information. There is so much information for whoever cares to look for it and to consume it, which was not there at our time when we had no computers, no internet, no WhatsApp, there's a lot of information that flows around the world. Somebody makes a very good speech and the person gets a clip, 2 minutes, and then you listen and say, wow, this is good. It wasn't there.
Yeah.
If you wanted to communicate to somebody, like I'll give you an example in Arua, that there was one phone line. One phone. At the post office. So if you wanted to call Kampala, and because remember, you can't travel because there's Konyi, So like me as a young man working for the DPP in charge of the whole of West Nile, I had to learn to make decisions, because if you wanted to make a phone call from Arua to Kampala, you'd all have to book that telephone at the post office. And then you take turns. The district health officer, I want to talk to somebody in Kampala. So that may become number one. Secretary wants to talk to the DPP. You are number two. And they tell you. So the conversation ends. Then the next one takes the phone. The royal, those days, that's how the phone used to work. You ring and, dial the numbers. You talk for some time. Then you leave on somebody. So it was actually true that there had to be, the information was not as much as it is now. Now there is a lot of information. So I'm saying that experience really helps a great deal. And you have to learn, and some of this is sacrificial knowledge. And sometimes maybe you're getting it out of mistakes. When people talk about coaches, people are mentoring and coaches, all they're trying to say is that how can you learn from the scars of somebody who did not know what they know now, so that you don't have to go through all those bruises. If somebody tells you a principle. And I've seen that has helped me a lot, in the places we've gone, and somebody says, like when you're in a foreign country, and you've taken your Uganda mentality, you're interpreting things on the surface. You've gone for a function, and everybody, oh, good to see you. Where do you come from? And you go home and say, oh, I have very best friends. Now there may be somebody else saying, wait a minute. People are actually being nice and courteous because
that's their culture.
Don't go back to their house the following day saying, yesterday you talked to me nicely. I want us to continue talking. No. So there are things that are cultural, but which you learn with time. Say, oh, very nice. These are nice courtesies. You all go, then you go back to yourself.
Very important. So thank you very much.
Do
you have any final remarks as we bring this to a close?
Well, thank you very much. I would tell the people that we have a lot of knowledge now, which is floating around. Knowledge is so important. So important. Some of us have suffered losses because we lacked knowledge. So for me, one of the things I would say, acquire as much knowledge about all sorts of things as possible. Do research, ask people, and so on, before you take decisions. Read, and so on. Number two is the fear of God. Knowing the Lord Jesus Christ at an early age really protects you from a lot of things. I mean, for us, most of it appear to be naive. Where you take the Bible teaching and take it literally. Do not steal means do not steal. Do not lie means do not lie. Do not commit adultery means don't commit adultery. So there are a lot of things which the knowledge of God helps you. I remember going to one of the courses in America and somebody saying, if you are seeking greatness, avoid doing things that will cause you shame. Because shame always diminishes. You actually forfeit sometimes your destiny. So he's saying, that's it's something that's stuck in my head. Avoid doing things that will cause you shame, whether people see you or not. The world is groaning for people with integrity. There is a scarcity of people to trust. And it's a big, big problem. So many young people are saying the end justifies the means. But we are saying, no, please. Let the means also matter. Don't just say that I got the result. We should all be interested to know how was the result actually achieved. So these are the things that we are saying. One, have knowledge. Number two, the fear of God. Number three, postponement of immediate gratification. Because, from childhood, we have a lot of things where your body is longing for this. Like us, I was in those boarding schools, a primary school. I remember when we were in primary school, it was a boys' school, that Mwiri primary school. I was there for 7 years. And I remember listening to a boy who says, hey, I have a girlfriend. And I said, what is it like to have a girlfriend? When people have girlfriends, what do they even do? Yeah. And we'd all be so curious to hear about this boy. Yeah. And when we got to Buddha, the Buddha doctrine was having a girlfriend is actually a sin. So again, you live a pious life. You don't have a girlfriend. Maybe they wouldn't even have accepted us. But you say that already has bought you 6 years. When somebody is saying, please avoid girls. And then they're also teaching the Christian girls, please girls, if you avoid boys, the boys will may actually hinder your progress. They buy something. Then you get to Makerere and you get into the Christian Union. Now the Christian Union has its own authority. They're asking for accountability, how you live. Now it's not school rules. Now but Christian. That takes you maybe through 3 years. Then you get to the workplace. The workplace will have its own rules. And if you're in this place, you come to work at 8. In this place, we don't allow theft. In this place, you must account for the money that's given you. So there are all those things, that opportunities that we are giving you to be a trusted person. So I'm just saying that it's important for people to learn to postpone, because there are things I can't tell you that you'll always win in all these battles of life. No, you may not win in all of them. But one of the principles I've learned is, please postpone. If you think your body is craving something, it's for now. If you just say, maybe let me wait until tomorrow. By tomorrow, you'll probably
you'll be good.
You'll probably
And you're saved for a day.
Yes, you're saved for a day, and you might be in a completely new situation, and there'll be new demands for that day. So, postponement of immediate gratification. Life is a journey. Yes. And this journey, unfortunately, doesn't have a reverse gear. Because I remember I was a young person not too long ago, and now when we participate in these platforms of the class of 1980, class of 1970, amongst ourselves, then first we feel nothing much has changed. It's only when people post their images and say, this was a sweet little boy. Now people are 60, and it actually scares. So life is a journey, but a journey without a reverse gear. But it has what is it called? A side mirror that you can see. And you say, maybe there have been opportunities that I should have taken, which I did not. Maybe I wish I was more intentional. So like me, what I'm now realizing, because some of us in our generation, we are fortunate that certain things worked out naturally. When you wanted the job, as we finished studying at Makerere, all these ministries would come and set up booths at the university saying, we are interviewing students, people to recruit, Ministry of Education, Ministry of, like us, the lawyers, Ministry of Justice. So you apply, Ministry of Lands, And I remember joining the DPP, almost more than half the class joined. Then after that, after a few months, people started getting other jobs and leaving. Now we are in a different era. At that time, the population was 10 million. Now it's 40-something million. And some of these opportunities have not grown. The government cannot employ so many. So we are saying, now that there is a lot of information, we are urging young people to be intentional. We are saying, as a young person, given the amount of knowledge that is floating around on the internet, on WhatsApp, in your various groups, why don't you search and say, why did God create me? What are those talents that God gave me? Because we've said that these talents are given to you to bless people. But it's not just to bless people. The talents are also used to give you a living. You have a talent and you polish it up, you study, learn as much as possible, rise to be the best in an area, but where it's a natural gift. Because sometimes some of us have been able to drift along in life, But drifting along is no longer possible. There are too many people chasing too few opportunities. But the people who will succeed are those who are looking in themselves saying, why did God create me? What are those gifts that God placed in me that I need to discover? When you've discovered them, say, how can I nourish, train, polish, raise the best of my ability, polish up this talent until it's the most recognized. I'm the most recognized person. I'm the go-to person. You've heard of some medical doctors, obstetrics and gynecology. Oh, if you're giving birth, you need to go to that doctor.
Yes, they've polished.
They've polished a skill. Word has gone around So when the doctor says, before the person says, just tell the secretary, I think every patient consultation is 150,000 shillings to talk to me.
And people pay the money.
You can even then, when there are too many, says, I think now we can pay 500,000 and let them book in advance. Let them pay online. And then you give an appointment. That is somebody with a talent who has polished it. Let's identify the resources God has put in you. Because those resources are hidden in there. Sometimes it could be your friends could help you to say, by the way, I see this in you. And if it is true, there will be a witness say, come to think of it. It's actually true. Then run with that talent, because God gave it to you to bless others, but also bless yourself and your family. It should be able to feed you. If it cannot work for you in Uganda, sell it in Tanzania, sell it in Rwanda, sell it in Kenya. If nobody in East Africa wants your skill, please go to South Africa. For me, I really believe in a global picture. That's another thing that I've taken away from my short life, is that you're going to the whole world, and now being familiar that any city I get into, it doesn't worry me. How will I get to this place? There is now an Uber app. Get a direction. You can pay online. You do all this. It's really an exciting time to live. But people must polish up their talent and take it as high as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bamugemereire. This has been very candid for me. There are so many lessons I've picked, and I know people who are younger are now starting to get better. One of the last points that you made is about polishing your skill, your talent, and actually monetize it. See that you feed from that. It's more fulfilling than to go and earn from where you're not.
Yeah, that's good. It is frustrating.
Every day
you may have your contacts and somebody places you in a job, but where you have no skill, and you're saying, I'm only here because I know so and so. You know? It's frustrating. You frustrate the people around you, those below you, people even taking you. And it's really a square peg in a round hole. God has placed a certain talent in you, which if discover it, polish it up, market it. Don't fear to talk about it. Get people to pay for your talent.
Thank you. That's very clear. And I want you to use the moment after watching this video to reflect on your personal life and identify that thing that God has placed in your heart. And I'll tell you, this will be the beginning of a journey for you to live a more fulfilled life. So thank you so much, Mr. Bamugemereire. It was such an honor for me to have a conversation with you. And I know that many people have also learned something, you know. And if you're there and there's something that you really you've picked from this conversation, just go in the comment section and let us know what you've learned. But above all, subscribe, share this link to somebody you feel is at a point where they are discovering who they are. You know, somebody who still wants to understand their purpose, someone who still wants to know the value of sacrifice and all that. And together, let us be better. So till next time, bye-bye.